A Vampire Romance, written by Amelia Hart. Chapter 1. Silver and Shadows. The hospital doors closed behind Claire Westfield at exactly 2:47 a.m., 12 hours. That was how long she had been on her feet, stitching wounds and checking vitals and keeping people alive who probably should not have made it through the night. Her scrubs still smelled like antiseptic and coffee that had gone cold 3 hours ago. Her feet ached in a way that made every step from the employee entrance to the parking lot feel like walking on broken glass. The street was empty. Greymont did not sleep. Not really. But this part of the city pretended to. Streetlights cast pools of yellow on wet pavement. It had rained earlier. Claire could smell it in the air, that clean dampness that made everything feel quieter than it should. She was halfway to her car when she saw them. A man in a dark suit. Expensive. The kind that did not wrinkle even at 3 a.m. He walked with the stillness of someone who had never rushed anywhere in his life. Beside him, a child. Small, maybe 8 years old, with hair so pale it almost looked white under the streetlights. Claire's tired brain registered them as odd. Wrong time. Wrong place. Nobody walked through this neighborhood at this hour with a kid. Then she saw the others. 3 figures, moving too carefully to be anything innocent. They stayed in the shadows between buildings, their movements synchronized. Professional. Claire had seen enough trauma patients to recognize predators when she saw them. Her hand went to her phone. She should call 911. Should get back inside the hospital where there were security guards and cameras, and people who were not exhausted nurses with terrible instincts for self-preservation. Instead, she watched. The man in the suit stopped. His head turned slightly, as if he heard something Claire could not. The child looked up at him, small hand gripping the man's sleeve. That was when Claire saw the red dot. It appeared on the man's chest like a drop of blood on black fabric. Laser sight. She had seen them before, in movies, and once in the emergency room when a SWAT officer came in with a training injury. Her body moved before her brain caught up. "Look out!" The words ripped from her throat as she ran. Her legs screamed in protest, but she did not stop. Could not stop. The man's head snapped toward her. His eyes caught the streetlight and reflected it back, silver and cold and completely wrong. Claire reached them just as the first shot fired. She felt it before she heard it. Impact like a sledgehammer to her stomach, punching through her body with a force that lifted her off her feet. The pain came a second later, white-hot and spreading. The man moved. Fast. Too fast. One moment he was standing beside the child, the next he was a blur of motion and shadow. There were sounds, screaming, running footsteps. Claire hit the ground hard, wet pavement pressed against her cheek. Everything hurt in a way that her medical training told her was very, very bad. She could not breathe right, could not focus. Warm liquid spread beneath her, soaking through her scrubs. A face appeared above her. The man from the suit. Up close. He was impossibly beautiful and completely terrifying. White hair fell past his shoulders. Skin pale as marble. Eyes that glowed silver in the darkness. "You are human." His voice was soft. Confused. "Why did you do that?" Claire tried to answer. Her mouth moved, but only a wet, gurgling sound came out. Blood. She tasted copper. "Father?" The child's voice, high and frightened. "Is she going to die?" The man's hand pressed against Claire's stomach. She screamed, could not help it. The pressure made everything worse. The bullet went through. He lifted his hand. His palm was red. Claire's red. Silver. That word meant something. Should have meant something. Claire's thoughts scattered like marbles on tile. "We have to go." The child again. "They might come back. She saved my life." The man said it quietly, as if he could not quite believe it. "Yours too, Evander. But she is human." "I know." Claire felt herself being lifted. Strong arms, cold against her skin. The world tilted sideways. She tried to protest. Tried to say that hospitals had ambulances, that she needed surgery, that moving trauma patients was textbook wrong. Nothing came out but blood. The man held her against his chest as he walked. She could not hear his heartbeat. That was wrong too, but everything was wrong now. and Claire's vision was going dark at the edges. "Stay with me," the voice came from far away. "Do not die, not yet." She tried. She really did. But the darkness was so much easier than the pain. The last thing Claire saw before unconsciousness took her was Silver eyes, watching her like she was a puzzle he could not solve. The car was black and sleek, and probably cost more than Claire's yearly salary. She did not see the man put her in the back seat, did not feel the engine start or the smooth acceleration as they left the city behind. She was drowning in her own body, blood-filled spaces it should not be. Her nervous system fired random signals: pain, cold, numbness spreading from her extremities inward. The child, Evander, knelt beside her in the back seat. His small hand pressed a jacket against her wound. Too much pressure. Not enough. Claire could not tell anymore. "How far?" the child asked. 10 minutes. The man drove faster than was safe. The city lights blurred outside the windows. Maybe less. Will she make it? Silence. Claire's eyes fluttered open. Everything was doubled. Tripled. The child's face swam in and out of focus. "My grandmother." The words bubbled out of her. "Ruth. She lives on Maple Street. Tell her I'm sorry. You are not dying." The man's voice from the front seat. Absolute. Final. "I will not allow it." Claire wanted to laugh. Wanted to tell him that was not how trauma worked. That silver-jacketed bullets did not care about allowances. That she could feel her body shutting down one system at a time. But the darkness came back, and this time it was deeper. When she woke again, they were no longer moving. Strong arms lifted her from the car. Night air, crisp and cold. The smell of pine and something else. Old stone, wood smoke. A building loomed above them. Not a hospital. Too old, too quiet. "Is this your house?" Claire's voice was barely a whisper. "Yes. I need a hospital." "No." The man carried her through doors that opened on their own. "You need me." The entry hall was marble and shadows. Chandelier hanging from a ceiling too high to see. Claire's blood dripped onto white stone, leaving a trail. "Call Margot," the man's voice echoed. "And Philippe. Now." Footsteps. Multiple sets. Voices Claire could not parse. She was laid on something soft. A bed. Sheets that probably cost more than her car. Faces appeared above her. The man. The child. Others she did not know. Silver poisoning. A woman's voice, crisp and efficient. Red hair. Green eyes that assessed Claire with clinical precision. "Even if we remove the bullet fragments, she will die. Then we do not remove them." The man knelt beside the bed. His hand brushed hair from Claire's face. "We transform her." The woman went very still. "Dominic, that breaks the accord. She died saving my life. Saving Evander's life. I will not leave that debt unpaid. The council will question this. Let them." Claire's vision was fading again. She tried to focus on the man's face. Dominic. That was his name. She should remember that. "What are you?" she managed. He leaned closer. His breath was cold against her ear. "Something that refuses to let you die." Then his wrist was at her mouth. And something that tasted like winter and metal and darkness poured down her throat. Claire's last conscious thought was that this was wrong. That she should fight. That she should... The darkness swallowed everything. Chapter 2. Blood Debt. The room smelled of sandalwood and old books. Claire did not wake. Could not wake. Her body was somewhere between alive and dead, suspended in a place where pain existed but could not quite reach her. She floated in darkness, aware of voices but unable to respond. "Lay her here." Dominic's voice, calm and absolute. Hands placed her on silk sheets. Soft. Too soft. Claire's fingers twitched but would not obey her. Footsteps. Multiple sets. The creak of floorboards under weight. "How bad?" A woman's voice, sharp with efficiency. "Silver bullet. Through and through. Entry wound in the abdomen. Exit wound in the lower back." Dominic sounded clinical now. "Detached. The fragments are still inside her. I can smell them. Then she is already dead." The woman again. "Silver poisoning will finish what the blood loss started." Claire wanted to protest. wanted to say that silver poisoning was not a real medical condition, that she needed surgery and transfusions and antibiotics. But her mouth would not move. A different presence approached the bed. Male. The scent of gun oil and old leather. You brought a human here. The man's voice was rough, disapproving. To the estate. She took a bullet meant for me, Philippe. Dominic moved closer to the bed. For Evander, what would you have me do? Leave her to die in the street? Yes. Philippe did not hesitate. It would have been kinder. Father saved her life. Evander's small voice came from somewhere near the door. She saved ours first. Silence fell over the room like a heavy blanket. The woman spoke again. Dominic, even if we remove the silver fragment surgically, her body has been flooded with it. The wounds will not close. She will bleed out within the hour. Then we do not remove them. Dominic's hand touched Claire's forehead. Cold. So cold. We transform her. The room erupted. You cannot be serious. Philippe's voice rose. The accord. I know what the accord says. Then you know that transforming a human without prior consent is a violation. The Treaty of 1847 is explicit. We do not turn humans against their will. That is what separates us from the monsters in the old stories. Dominic's hand remained on Claire's forehead. Steady. Grounding. She is dying because she saved my life. That creates a blood debt. I will not dishonor that sacrifice. The council will question this. The woman's voice was quieter now. Worried. Margot Reed. You have been my advisor for how long? 83 years, my lord. And in all that time, have I made a decision lightly? No. Then trust me now. Dominic removed his hand from Claire's forehead. We have perhaps 30 minutes before she dies. I need to know if the transformation will work with silver still in her system. Margot was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice was thoughtful. Professional. The silver will be a problem. Vampire blood neutralizes silver, but only during the transformation itself. The process requires a complete blood exchange. Her human blood must be drained almost entirely, then replaced with yours. Will it save her? Theoretically, yes. The vampire blood will bond with the silver fragments and expel them naturally over the next few days. But Dominic, you understand what you are doing? This woman did not ask for this. She will wake up changed. Immortal. She can never go back to her human life. I understand. Do you? Margot moved to the other side of the bed, because I remember what it was like, being turned without choice. It has been 200 years and I still remember the rage, the grief, the sense of violation. She will live. She will exist. There is a difference. Claire tried to open her eyes, tried to scream that they were talking about her like she was already dead, that she had a say in this, that she did not want to be a vampire or a monster or whatever they were. Nothing happened. Her body refused to obey. Philippe spoke again, his voice tight with something Claire could not name. If you do this, you set a precedent. Every vampire in the region will think they can turn humans on a whim. This is not a whim. Dominic's voice went cold. Dangerous. This is a debt. And when the council demands answers, when they ask why you broke the accord for some random woman, then I will tell them the truth. She died saving the vampire king and his heir. I honored that sacrifice. If they have a problem with it, they can take it up with me directly. The title hung in the air. Vampire King. Claire's fading mind tried to process that. King of what? King of whom? Evander? Margot's voice gentled. You should not see this. I want to stay. The child's voice was stubborn. She saved us. I want to see her wake up. The transformation takes 18 hours. You will be bored long before then. I do not care. Margot sighed. Very well. But stay by the door. Do not interfere. Dominic's voice cut through the discussion. We are wasting time. Philippe, I need the silver extraction kit. Margot, prepare the surgical instruments. We remove what fragments we can before the transformation begins. Footsteps scattered. Claire heard drawers opening. The clink of metal on metal. Her heartbeat is slowing. Margot's hands pressed against Claire's throat. Checking her pulse. Blood pressure is critical. We have maybe 20 minutes. Then we work fast. What followed was a blur of sensation without context. Hands cutting away her bloody scrubs. Cold air against her skin. The sharp smell of antiseptic. Pressure on her stomach that made something inside her scream silently. I count 6 fragments. Margot's voice was clinical now. All business. 2 near the liver, 3 in the abdominal wall, 1 lodged against the spine. Can you remove them without killing her? Not all of them. The one near the spine is too deep. If I try to extract it, she will bleed out. Leave it. The transformation will handle it. Metal instruments. Pulling. Tearing. Claire's body convulsed, but she could not wake. Could not fight. Got 3. Margot dropped something into a metal bowl. The clink was sharp. The other 2 are embedded too deeply. We are out of time. Philippe, the draining basin. My lord, I must protest. Now! More movement. Something cold slid under Claire's back, propping her up slightly. A basin, probably. To catch the blood. Evander, turn around. Margot's voice was firm. But, turn around, now. Dominic knelt beside the bed. Claire felt his presence more than saw it. Cold. Ancient. Powerful. Forgive me. His voice was barely a whisper. I am saving your life. I hope someday you will understand that. Then his wrist was at her mouth, and something that tasted like winter and iron poured down her throat. Claire's body convulsed. Her back arched off the bed. Every cell in her body screamed at once, a symphony of agony that had no beginning and no end. Hold her down. Margot's voice, sharp with alarm. Hands pressed Claire's shoulders into the mattress. Her arms, her legs. She thrashed against them but could not break free. The blood kept coming. Dominic's blood. It burned through her veins like acid, seeking out every drop of her human blood and destroying it. She felt it happening, felt her humanity dying one piece at a time. Her heart stuttered, stopped, started again with a rhythm that was all wrong. Her heart... Philippe's voice cracked. It is supposed to do that. Margot sounded calm, but Claire could hear the tension underneath. The transformation is beginning. Claire's eyes flew open. The room was too bright, too sharp. Every detail carved into her vision with painful clarity. She saw Dominic above her, white hair falling past his shoulders, silver eyes wide with something that might have been fear. She tried to speak. Blood poured from her mouth instead. Not her blood. His blood. Red and dark and wrong. Sleep. Dominic's hand covered her eyes, blocking out the too bright room. This part is the worst. Sleep. And when you wake, you will be alive. Claire wanted to argue, wanted to say that she was a nurse, and she knew what death looked like. And this was death, not life. But the darkness came back, deeper than before, and she fell into it like falling into an ocean with no bottom. The last thing she heard was Margot's quiet voice. 18 hours. That is how long the transformation takes. After that, she will wake up as one of us. And if she does not? Philippa asked. Then we bury her and pretend this never happened. The darkness swallowed everything. Dominic did not leave Claire's side. 18 hours. That was what Margot said. 18 hours of waiting to see if the woman who saved his life would survive the attempt to save hers. He sat in a chair beside the bed, watching her body fight itself. The transformation was never easy. He remembered his own, 412 years ago. The pain, the confusion, the rage at being changed without permission. Claire's body twitched, spasmed. Her skin went from pale to gray, to something in between. The silver fragments were being expelled, pushed out through her pores as the vampire blood did its work. Evander sat by the door, exactly where Margot told him to stay. The boy had not moved in 6 hours, had not spoken, just watched with those 2 old eyes. You should sleep, Dominic said quietly. So should you. Fair point. Margot entered the room carrying a bowl of water and clean cloths. She began wiping the silver residue from Claire's skin, her movements efficient. The transformation is progressing normally. She did not look at Dominic. Her body is accepting the change. You disapprove. I disapprove of the necessity, not the action. Margot rinsed the cloth. She saved your life. That matters. Philippe does not think so. Philippe lost someone he loved to violence he could not prevent. He sees threats everywhere now. Margot's voice softened slightly. Give him time. Dominic watched Claire's chest rise and fall, slower than a human's breath, faster than a vampire's. Somewhere in between. What if she hates me? The words came out before he could stop them. What if she wakes up, and all she feels is rage at what I have done? Margot finally looked at him. Really looked at him. Then you will deal with it. The same way you deal with everything else, with patience and honor. She set down the bowl. But Dominic, the council will summon you. Probably within the week. You broke the accord. That has consequences. Let them summon me. I will answer for my choice. And if they demand her death, if they rule that an unauthorized transformation must be reversed, Dominic's eyes flashed silver. Then the council will learn exactly how far I am willing to go to honor a blood debt. Margot smiled slightly. Good. That is the king I know. She left the room, taking Evander with her despite his protests. Dominic remained, watching Claire transform into something she never asked to be. Outside, the sun began to rise. Chapter 3. First Thirst. 18 hours and 7 minutes after the transformation began, Claire's eyes opened. The first thing she felt was hunger. Not the kind of hunger that came from skipping lunch or working a double shift. This was different, deeper, a gnawing emptiness that started in her stomach and spread through every vein like poison. It hurt, physically hurt, in a way that made her want to scream. The second thing she noticed was the noise. Everything was too loud. She could hear fabric rustling somewhere below her. Footsteps on carpet 3 rooms away. The whisper of air moving through ventilation ducts. A heartbeat. No. 3 heartbeats. 4. Each one distinct, pulsing through the house like drums that would not stop. Claire tried to sit up. Her body obeyed too quickly. She was vertical before her brain caught up, the room spinning around her in crystal-sharp detail. Too sharp. Too clear. She could see the individual threads in the curtains across the room. Could count the dust particles floating in the shaft of artificial light from the hallway. Could see the wood grain in the furniture with such precision it made her head ache. Easy. Dominic's voice came from beside the bed. She had not heard him approach. Had not seen him move. But there he was. White hair catching the light. Silver eyes watching her with careful intensity. Your senses are heightened. It takes time to adjust. Claire's mouth opened. Closed. Her tongue felt wrong. Too large. Too sharp. She ran it over her teeth and froze. Fangs. She had fangs. Her hand flew to her mouth. The movement was too fast, too strong. She nearly hit herself in the face. Her fingers found the edges of elongated canines that definitely had not been there before. What did you do to me? The words came out in a rasp. I saved your life. Dominic remained still. Calm. You were dying. The silver poisoning was... What did you do? Louder this time. Louder than she meant. The sound echoed in her own ears, painfully sharp. Dominic did not flinch. I transformed you. Gave you my blood. Changed you into what I am. Which is? A vampire. The word hung in the air between them. Vampire. Like something from movies and Halloween decorations and stories that were not supposed to be real. Claire laughed. It came out broken. Hysterical. That's not possible. Vampires aren't real. You have fangs. Dominic's voice remained steady. No heartbeat. No breath unless you choose to take one. You can hear the rats in the walls and smell the blood of everyone in this house. He tilted his head slightly. Tell me, Claire, what is your medical assessment of your current condition? She wanted to argue. Wanted to say that there was a rational explanation. That she was hallucinating or dreaming, or in some kind of coma fantasy, while her real body died on an operating table. But she could not deny what she felt. What she sensed. The wrongness of her own body. I need a mirror. Her voice shook. Claire. Now. Margot appeared in the doorway as if summoned. In her hands, a small, handheld mirror. The kind that nurses use to check patients' throats. She crossed the room and handed it to Claire without a word. Claire held it up with trembling hands. Stared at the smooth silver surface. Saw the room behind her reflected in perfect detail. The bed. The nightstand. The door. Not herself. The space where she should be was empty. Oh, God! The mirror slipped from her fingers. Margot caught it before it hit the floor. Philippe tore free of Dominic's grip and lunged. Not for Evander, but for Claire, trying to wrench the blade toward its original mark. Oh, God! Oh, God! Breathe! Dominic's hand touched her shoulder. She flinched away, scrambling backward across the bed. Too fast. She hit the headboard hard enough to crack the wood. The sound echoed through the room like a gunshot. Claire stared at the splintered wood, at her hand, which had moved faster than thought, at Dominic, who watched her with something that might have been sympathy. I am not human anymore. Not a question, a statement, a fact that was settling into her bones with terrible certainty. No. Dominic lowered his hand. You are not. You did this. You changed me, without asking. Without... Her voice cracked. I did not consent to this. You were unconscious, dying. I made a choice. It was not your choice to make. Dominic's jaw tightened. You threw yourself in front of a bullet meant for me, for my son. You were dying because you saved us. I owed you a debt. This was the only way to repay it. By turning me into a monster? By keeping you alive. Claire wanted to scream. Wanted to cry. Wanted to do something other than sit in this too-soft bed in a stranger's house while her body betrayed everything she thought she knew about biology and medicine, and reality itself. The hunger chose that moment to return, sharper than before. It twisted through her stomach like a knife, radiating out until every nerve ending screamed. She doubled over, gasping. Not for air. Her lungs did not need it. But the pain was so intense she could not think through it. Margot. Dominic's voice was sharp. Bring the blood. Claire's head snapped up. Blood? You need to feed. Margot moved to a small table Claire had not noticed before. On it sat a crystal glass filled with dark red liquid. Your body is changing. It requires blood now. Human blood. No. Claire shook her head violently. No, I am not drinking blood. That is insane. That is... The smell hit her mid-sentence. Rich and copper-sweet and utterly intoxicating. Her mouth flooded with saliva. Her fangs descended fully, sharp and aching. Margot approached with the glass. Claire tried to back away. Her body would not cooperate. She was leaning forward instead, drawn toward the scent like a moth to flame. This is from our donor system. Margot's voice was clinical. Professional. Volunteers who provide blood in exchange for compensation. No one was harmed to fill this glass. Claire's hands reached for it before she could stop herself. The crystal was cool against her palms. The blood inside moved slowly, thicker than water. I cannot. But even as she said it, she was lifting the glass to her lips. You must. Dominic stepped closer but did not touch her. The hunger will only get worse. Eventually you will lose control. Better to feed now, while you still have choice. The first drop touched her tongue, and Claire's world narrowed to a single point. Nothing had ever tasted like this. Nothing could taste like this. It was warmth and life and satisfaction that went beyond physical need into something almost spiritual. She drank. Could not stop drinking. The glass was empty in seconds, and she was licking the rim, desperate for more. When clarity returned, she found herself on her knees on the floor. The empty glass rolled away from her hand. Dominic and Margot watched from a careful distance. What have you done to me? Claire whispered. Horror and relief warred in her chest. She had never felt so satisfied and so disgusted with herself at the same time. A small sound from the doorway made her look up. Evander stood there, holding a handful of wildflowers, purple and yellow and white. His young face was worried. I thought these might help. He signed as he spoke, hands moving in graceful patterns Claire somehow understood. Margot says pretty things make people feel better when they are scared. Claire stared at the child, at the flowers, at this boy who was not really a boy, but something centuries old wearing a child's face. Tears came before she could stop them. Hot and stinging and wrong. When she touched her cheek, her fingers came away pink. Blood-tinged tears. My life is over. The words came out broken. Everything I was. Everything I worked for. Gone. Evander crossed the room and set the flowers beside her on the floor. His small hand patted her shoulder awkwardly. You are not gone. His voice was high and clear. You are just different now. Father says different is not the same as wrong. Claire looked at Dominic. Found him watching her with an expression she could not read. I need to call my grandmother. She forced the words out. Ruth. She lives alone. She will be worried. Not yet. Dominic crouched down, bringing himself to her eye level. Claire, you do not understand your own strength yet. You cracked that headboard with a touch. What do you think would happen if you tried to hug your grandmother right now? The image flashed through her mind. Ruth's fragile bones. Claire's new, uncontrolled strength. The sound of something breaking that could not be fixed. Fresh tears spilled down her cheeks. When? She managed. When can I see her? When you have control. A few days, maybe a week. A week? Claire laughed bitterly. She reported me missing by now. She must be terrified. We will handle it. Margot spoke from her position near the door. There are ways to make explanations. To buy time. Claire pulled her knees to her chest. Wrapped her arms around herself. The hunger had faded to a dull ache. Manageable now, but she knew it would come back. Knew she would drink blood again because the alternative was something she did not want to imagine. What am I now? She asked the room. Asked herself. Dominic remained crouched beside her. You are Claire Westfield, 27 years old, nurse. Saved my life at cost of your own. He paused. And yes, now you are also vampire. That is part of you, not all of you. Claire looked at Evander. At Margot. At Dominic with his ancient eyes. At Philippe, who stood in the hallway beyond the door, watching. Silent, his expression closed and unreadable. I do not know how to be this. The admission felt like defeat. No one does. Not at first. Margot finally moved closer. But you will learn. We will teach you. And if I do not want to learn, if I want my old life back, silence. Can I go back? Claire pressed. Can you undo this? Dominic's silver eyes held hers. No. The transformation is permanent. There is no cure. No reversal. He stood slowly. I am sorry. Truly. But you were dying. This was the only choice I had. It was not your choice to make, Claire repeated. But the anger had drained out of her. Left behind was just exhaustion. Grief. The slow, terrible acceptance of something that could not be changed. She was a vampire now. Would be a vampire forever. Her human life had ended the moment that bullet entered her body. Everything after was just aftermath. Claire picked up one of Evander's flowers. Held it to her nose. She could smell it with perfect clarity. Every note of pollen and stem and earth. Do flowers even mean anything anymore? She asked no one in particular. When you cannot die? Evander's voice was soft. They mean more. Because you know they will die and you will not. It makes them precious. Claire looked at the child who was not a child. Saw the weight of decades in his two young eyes. How long have you been 8 years old? 67 years. And you remember being human? No. I was turned when I was 6. Evander tilted his head. But Father remembers. He can tell you what it is to lose humanity, how to grieve it, how to move forward anyway. Claire turned to Dominic. How long? 412 years. The number was incomprehensible. Claire had lived 27 years. This being in front of her had existed for over 4 centuries. Had seen empires rise and fall. Had watched generations be born and die while he remained unchanged. I cannot, she whispered. I cannot do this for 400 years. You do not have to think about 400 years. Dominic knelt again. This time, Claire did not pull away when he placed a hand over hers. His skin was as cold as hers now. Think about today. This hour. The next feeding. One moment at a time. That is all any of us can do. Margot added. Immortal or not. Claire closed her eyes. Behind her lids, she saw Ruth's face. Saw the hospital. Saw her old life fading into memory. When she opened them again, the world was still too sharp. Too bright. Too much. But she was still in it. Still here. Still existing. even if existing meant something completely different now. I want to try standing, she said finally. Dominic helped her up. Her legs shook but held. She was taller than she remembered. Or maybe he was just very close. The first days are hardest, he said quietly. But you are strong. You proved that when you took a bullet for strangers. I was stupid, Claire corrected. My body moved before my brain engaged. No. Dominic's silver eyes caught the light. You were brave. There is a difference. Claire was not sure she believed him, but she did not have the energy to argue. She was a vampire now. That was her reality. Everything else would have to wait. Chapter 4. Learning Control. Day 1 as a vampire, Claire broke 7 things before noon. A doorknob, ripped clean from its socket when she tried to leave her room. The bathroom faucet, twisted off in her hand. 3 glasses, shattered the moment her fingers closed around them. A wooden chair, splintered when she sat down too quickly. And Margot's wrist. That one was an accident during training. But the crack echoed through the basement like a gunshot. Stop. Margot's voice remained calm even as she cradled her broken bone. Breathe. Reset. I am so sorry. Claire backed away, hands raised. I did not mean... I know. Margot rotated her wrist experimentally. Already the bone was knitting back together. Vampire healing. That is why we train. You have the strength to lift a car. Your brain has not caught up to that fact yet. The basement was vast and empty. Concrete floors, stone walls, no windows. Perfect for someone learning not to destroy everything they touched. Dominic watched from the doorway, arms crossed. He had not left Claire alone since she woke, staying close but not crowding, teaching through example rather than lecture. Try again. Margot held out an empty wine glass. Crystal. Expensive. Pick it up without breaking it. Claire approached like the glass was a live grenade. Her hand trembled as she reached for it. Too slow, too careful. Her fingers brushed the rim, and the entire thing exploded into fragments. She wanted to scream, wanted to throw something. Except she could not throw anything without sending it through a wall. 5 days. Margot swept up the shards with inhuman speed. That is how long it took me to hold a glass without shattering it. You are on day 1. Be patient with yourself. I do not have time to be patient. Claire stared at her traitorous hands. Every minute I am here, Ruth thinks I am missing. Dead. She is 78 years old. The stress will not kill her in 5 days. Dominic finally spoke. Claire, look at me. She met his silver eyes. You are learning to exist in a body that can do extraordinary things. That takes time. If you try to contact Ruth now, before you have control, you will hurt her. Possibly kill her. Is that what you want? Of course not. Then train. So she trained. By day 3, Claire could hold a glass without breaking it. Could open doors without ripping them from their hinges. Could shake hands with Margot without crushing bones. By day 4, Dominic brought in the real test. The man was young, maybe 25. He wore kitchen staff clothes and had a dish towel wrapped around his left hand. Blood seeped through the fabric. Bright red, fresh. The smell hit Claire like a physical blow. Her fangs descended before she could stop them. Hunger roared through her veins, drowning out thought. Steady. Dominic's hand landed on her shoulder, firm, grounding. This is Jackson. He cut his hand preparing dinner. Needs it looked at by someone with medical training. Jackson's heartbeat pounded in Claire's ears. She could smell the blood, could taste it in the air. Every instinct screamed at her to lunge, to feed, to take what her body demanded. Claire, Dominic's voice cut through the haze. You are a nurse. You have treated thousands of wounds. This is no different. It is completely different. Her voice came out strangled. I want to hurt him, but you will not. How do you know? Because you are stronger than your hunger. Claire forced herself to breathe. Did not need the air, but the rhythm helped. In, out, in, out. The hunger remained, but she could think around it now. Could see Jackson as a person rather than prey. Let me see. She moved forward slowly. Unwrapped the towel with shaking hands. Deep laceration across the palm. Needed stitches. maybe 7 or 8. Claire's medical training kicked in, overriding instinct. Clean cut, no debris in the wound. You will be fine. She rewrapped it tightly. Go see Margot. She has proper supplies. Jackson hurried out. The moment he was gone, Claire collapsed against the wall. I almost lost control, but you did not. Dominic handed her a glass of blood. She had not seen him pour it. You chose restraint over instinct. That is what separates us from monsters. Claire drank. The hunger faded to manageable levels. Where does this come from? She held up the empty glass. The blood. Voluntary donors. Dominic sat beside her on the floor. Humans who sign contracts to provide blood monthly. They are paid $800 per donation, receive full medical checkups, comprehensive health insurance. And they know what they are donating for? They believe it is for medical research, rare disease studies. Dominic's expression remained neutral. Only a handful know the truth, those who can be trusted. Claire turned the glass in her hands. So we lie to them. We protect them from knowledge that would endanger them. If humans learned vampires were real, there would be panic. War. Thousands would die. That is a convenient justification. It is also true. Dominic took the glass from her. Claire, I will not pretend our existence is simple. It is not. We feed on humans to survive. But we do so ethically. No one dies. No one is harmed. That is more than most of history can claim. She wanted to argue. Wanted to say that lying was wrong regardless of reason. But her stomach was full of blood from that system. She had no moral high ground left. Evander appeared in the basement doorway. In his arms, a stack of books taller than his torso. Father said you like to read. He set the stack down with a thud. I picked my favorites. Claire examined the spines. Classic literature. Modern fiction. Medical journals from the 1800s. An eclectic mix that somehow fit perfectly. Thank you. She meant it. Want to see the library? Evander's eyes lit up. It is 5 floors, thousands of books. Some are older than Father. Despite everything, Claire smiled. Show me. The library was magnificent. Shelves stretched toward vaulted ceilings. Ladders on rails provided access to higher levels. The smell of aged paper and leather filled the air. Evander led her to a reading nook by a window. Heavy curtains blocked the sunlight, but Claire could feel it beyond the fabric, a warning pressure against her skin. I spend a lot of time here. Evander signed as he spoke, hands moving gracefully. Books do not care that I look 8 years old. They do not treat me like a child. How long have you been 8? 67 years. He said it matter-of-factly. I was turned at 6. Father found me dying of plague in a village he was passing through. No family left alive. He could not leave me. Claire sat beside him on the window seat. Do you resent him? For changing you? Sometimes. Evander's honesty was startling. I will never grow up. Never have a normal life. Never know what I could have become. He traced patterns on the book in his lap. But I would be dead otherwise. At least this way I exist. I can learn. Can experience centuries of history. Can have a father who loves me. Does he? Love you? Yes. No hesitation. In his way. He is not good at showing it. 400 years makes you forget how to be soft. But he tries. Claire thought about Dominic. His careful distance. His measured words. The way he had stayed beside her bed for 18 hours during the transformation. What is vampire hierarchy? She changed the subject. Everyone keeps mentioning councils and territories. Evander brightened. He loved explaining things. Father is the vampire king. That means he rules all vampires on the East Coast, from Maine to Florida. His word is law. He pulled out a book with maps. But there are other factions. Julian Cross controls territory in the Midwest. They have been fighting over border cities for decades. Fighting how? Politics mostly. Sometimes violence. Depends on the year. Evander flipped pages. Then there's the council. 5 ancient vampires who oversee the accord. The treaty Margot mentioned. Yes. Established in 1847, says vampires, werewolves, and witches must coexist peacefully. No mass murders. No exposing our existence. No turning humans without consent. He paused. Father broke that last rule for you. I gathered. The council will summon him. Probably soon. They do not like exceptions. Claire felt ice in her stomach. What happens if they rule against him? Evander closed the book. I do not know. It has never happened before. On day 5, Dominic decided Claire needed to leave the estate. Just for an hour. He handed her a jacket. You need to experience the city as vampire. Learn to function around humans. I am not ready. You held control during the bleeding test. You are ready enough. Felipe drove them in a black sedan. He had barely spoken to Claire since the transformation. Now he sat silent behind the wheel, jaw tight, hands gripping 10 and 2. Claire sat in back with Dominic. Watched the city lights blur past the tinted windows. Everything looked different at night. Sharper, more alive. They parked in a busy downtown area. Restaurants and bars spilled light and noise into the street. Humans everywhere. Walking, talking, living. Claire's senses screamed. She could hear every conversation within 50 yards. Could smell blood pumping through veins. Could count heartbeats like drums in her head. Breathe. Dominic's hand found hers. Cold fingers lacing through cold fingers. Find one sound. Focus on it. Block out the rest. Claire chose music from a nearby bar. Jazz saxophone. She clung to it like a lifeline. Better? A little. They walked down the sidewalk. Philippe stayed close but not too close. Protective but wary. A couple passed them. Young, in love. The woman was laughing at something the man said. Her throat was exposed, pulse visible beneath pale skin. Claire's fangs ached. Keep walking. Dominic did not look at her. You are doing well. They passed restaurants, coffee shops, a bookstore that Claire would have loved as a human. Now she just smelled the blood of everyone inside. How do you stand it? She asked quietly, being around them constantly, knowing what they are, what you could do to them. 4 centuries of practice. Dominic stopped at a corner, waiting for the light to change, and remembering that I was human once, that these people are not food. They are lives, complete unto themselves. Does it get easier? Eventually. The hunger fades to background noise, like knowing you should eat lunch but not starving. The light changed. They crossed. On the opposite corner, Claire saw a homeless man sitting against a building, cup out for change. Jacket too thin for the cold October air. Before she could think, she reached into Dominic's pocket, pulled out his wallet, and handed the man $200 bills. The man stared. Are you serious? Get somewhere warm tonight, Claire heard herself say. Please. Back in the car, Dominic retrieved his wallet. You just gave away $200. You have more. That is not the point. Then what is? Dominic was quiet for a long moment. You kept your humanity, despite everything. That is worth more than money. Philippe drove them home. Claire watched the city disappear behind them. 5 days. That was all it had been. 5 days since her human life ended. Since she became something else. She could hold a glass without breaking it. Could resist fresh blood. Could walk among humans without attacking. But she could not call Ruth. Could not explain. Could not go back to her old life. That realization settled over her like a weight she would carry forever. Dominic seemed to sense her thoughts. Tomorrow we make a plan. For Ruth. For your apartment. For what comes next. And if there is no good plan, then we make a bad plan work. Together. Claire looked at him. Really looked. At the man who saved her life by ending it. Who transformed her into a monster to honor a debt. Why do you care? She asked. You paid your debt. You could be done with me. Dominic's silver eyes caught the streetlights as they passed. Because you jumped in front of a bullet for a stranger. Because you gave money to a homeless man after 5 days of being a vampire. Because you are proof that humanity is not biological. It is choice. He paused. And I will not abandon someone who makes that choice. Not after taking so much from you. Claire had no response to that. She turned back to the window, watching Greymont blur into countryside, and wondered what tomorrow would bring. 5 days down. Eternity to go. Chapter 5. The Life Before. On the morning of day 6, Claire stood at her bedroom window and watched the sun rise behind thick curtains. She could not see it directly. Would never see it directly again. but she felt its presence like a weight pressing against her skin. "I need to go back," she said without turning around. Dominic stood in the doorway. He had taken to checking on her every few hours. Guardian or jailer, she could not quite decide which. "To your apartment? To my life. What is left of it?" Claire finally faced him. "I have been gone almost a week. Ruth will have reported me missing by now. My co-workers, the hospital, they will be looking for me. I know. Then let me go. Let me explain." "Under what conditions?" Dominic moved into the room. "You understand the risks?" Claire held up her hands. They were steady now. No tremors, no accidental crushing. "I have control. You said so yourself. Physical control, yes. But emotional?" His silver eyes searched her face. "Seeing your grandmother will be difficult. Lying to her will be worse. I have been lying to patients for 3 years, telling them they will be fine when I know they will not. This is no different. It is completely different." Dominic stopped an arm's length away. "Those were kind lies. This is survival, and you will have to maintain it forever." The word hung between them. Forever. An eternity of deception. "Philippe will accompany you," Dominic continued, discreetly. "If you lose control, he will intervene. I will not lose control. Humor me." So that evening, as darkness settled over Greymont, Philippe drove Claire back to the city in silence. She sat in the back seat and watched familiar streets blur past. Everything looked the same. Nothing was the same. Her apartment building appeared exactly as she had left it. Brick facade, rusted fire escape. The corner store still had its neon sign flickering on the first floor. "I will be nearby." Philippe's voice was gruff, the first words he had spoken to her directly since the transformation. "Do not do anything stupid," Claire wanted to argue. Instead, she just nodded and climbed out. The building smelled different now. She could detect every scent. Cooking oil from apartment 2B, cigarette smoke from 3A, mold growing in the walls, and blood. So much blood. Every human heartbeat pulsing through the building like a symphony she could not unhear. Her apartment was on the 2nd floor. Key still in her jacket pocket from that night. The night everything ended. The door opened with a creak that sounded like thunder to her enhanced hearing. Inside, everything was exactly as she had left it. Scrubs tossed over the back of the couch. Coffee mug in the sink. Bills piled on the kitchen counter. A frozen moment from her old life. Claire's phone lay dead on the coffee table. She plugged it in, waited for it to power on. 47 missed calls, 32 text messages, 17 voicemails. Most were from Ruth. "Claire, honey, where are you? Call me. Claire, I am starting to worry. Please pick up. I called the hospital. They said you did not show up for work. Are you okay? Claire, I am calling the police. This is not like you." The messages grew more desperate, more frightened, each one a knife twisting in Claire's chest. The last voicemail was from 2 days ago. Ruth's voice was hoarse from crying. "Please be alive. Please, God. Let her be alive." Claire's hands shook as she dialed. 3 rings. 4. Then, "Hello?" Ruth's voice was thick with sleep. It was almost 8 p.m., but her grandmother had always been an early-to-bed person. "Grandma, it is me." Silence. Then a sob that broke Claire's heart. "Oh, thank God. Thank God. Where have you been? What happened? I have been losing my mind. I am so sorry. I am okay. I am safe." The lies came easier than Claire expected. Years of nursing had taught her to sound calm when everything was chaos. "There was an incident. I was mugged, hit my head, had some temporary memory issues. I have been in observation at a different hospital. Why did you not call? Why did no one contact me? I did not have my phone. And I was confused. I am sorry. I should have found a way." Ruth was crying now. Full, heaving sobs. "I thought you were dead. I thought I lost you too. Like Claire's parents. The accident that had taken them 13 years ago and left Ruth to raise a 10-year-old alone. Can I see you?" Ruth's voice was small, pleading. "Tonight? Please?" Claire looked out her window. Full darkness now, safe for her to move around. "Yes, I will come to you. Give me an hour. She hung up before Ruth could ask more questions. The drive to Ruth's house took 35 minutes. Philippe followed at a distance in a second car. Claire gripped the steering wheel of her own vehicle too tightly, heard the plastic creak under her fingers, forced herself to ease up. Ruth lived in a small house on Maple Street. White siding, blue shutters, garden boxes that bloomed with whatever she planted, as if the flowers themselves refused to disappoint her. The porch light was already on. Ruth opened the door before Claire could knock. 78 years old, white hair in a neat bun, cardigan despite the mild October evening. Her face was lined with worry that had not been there a week ago. Claire. She reached out with trembling hands. Claire forced herself to move slowly, to hug gently, to not reveal the strength that could snap Ruth's fragile bones without effort. Ruth felt so small in her arms, so breakable. Let me look at you. Ruth pulled back, hands on Claire's shoulders. Her eyes traced Claire's face with the precision of someone who had memorized every detail. You look pale, thinner. Are they feeding you at that hospital? I am fine, just tired. Claire had worn a turtleneck to hide her neck, colored contact lenses to mask the silver tint in her eyes, gloves to hide the temperature of her skin. But Ruth saw anyway, the way grandmothers always did. You are freezing. Come inside. I will make tea. The house smelled like home. Lavender potpourri, old books, the faint scent of whatever Ruth had baked that afternoon. And underneath it all, Ruth's heartbeat. Steady, fragile, mortal. Claire sat at the kitchen table while Ruth bustled around making tea. The routine was familiar, comforting, painful. I made your favorite. Ruth set a plate in front of Claire. Oatmeal cookies with raisins. The same recipe she had been making for 13 years. Claire's stomach turned. The smell that should have been appetizing was now nauseating. Food was not food anymore. Only blood held any appeal. Thank you. She picked up a cookie, took a small bite, forced herself to chew and swallow. It tasted like cardboard and ash. So tell me everything. Ruth sat across from her, hands wrapped around her own teacup. What happened? Who hurt you? The lies flowed. Claire had practiced them during the drive. She was mugged near the hospital, hit from behind, woke up disoriented, had some short-term memory loss. The hospital kept her for observation, but she was fine now. All tests came back normal. Ruth listened, asked questions. Claire deflected, redirected, used every technique she had learned from dealing with difficult patients. I called the hospital, Ruth said quietly. They said you needed a full medical evaluation before you could return to work. Standard procedure after a head injury. They also said something about a psychological evaluation. Claire's hands tightened on her teacup. The porcelain creaked. She set it down quickly before it shattered. Just routine. To make sure I am mentally ready to return to patient care. Ruth was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice was soft. Sad. You are lying to me. Claire's heart, which no longer beat, felt like it stopped anyway. Grandma, I do not know about what, but I know my granddaughter, and you are different. Ruth reached across the table. Her warm hand covered Claire's cold one. You are pale. You are cold. You have not touched your tea, and you are looking at me like you are afraid of something. I am not. Are you sick? Ruth's eyes filled with tears. Is that it? Did they find something? Cancer? Please, Claire. I cannot lose you too. The words were a gut punch. Claire wanted to tell the truth. Wanted to say that she was not sick. She was dead. She was a monster. She was everything Ruth had warned her about in childhood fairy tales. Instead, she squeezed Ruth's hand gently. So gently. I am not sick, I promise. I am just adjusting. The attack shook me up more than I want to admit. But I will be okay. Ruth searched her face, looking for truth, finding only more lies. If you need anything at all, you call me. Do you understand? I understand. They sat in silence. Claire pretended to drink tea. Ruth pretended not to notice. Finally, Claire stood. I should go. I have a follow-up appointment early tomorrow. Another lie. They were piling up now, suffocating. Ruth walked her to the door, hugged her again. This time, Claire felt Ruth's heartbeat against her chest. Thump, 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 thump. A rhythm that would continue for maybe another decade if she was lucky. Then stop forever, while Claire would remain, unchanging, eternal, alone. I love you, Ruth whispered. No matter what. You know that, right? Claire's throat tightened. I know. I love you too. She left before the blood tears could start. Filippo was waiting by her car. He said nothing, just watched her with those unreadable eyes. Dominic appeared from the shadows, because of course he did. He could not stay away even when he promised discretion. How was it? He asked quietly. I lied to the woman who raised me, the woman who loved me when no one else did. I looked her in the eye and I lied. Claire's voice broke. She knows something is wrong. She knows I am different, and I had to keep lying. I am sorry. Are you? Claire rounded on him, all the anger and grief and frustration boiling over. Because this is what you saved me for. A life of lies. A life where I can never go home. Where I have to pretend to be something I am not, while everyone I love grows old and dies. Dominic did not flinch. Did not defend himself. Just stood there and took it. You saved my life, Claire continued. But you destroyed everything else. My job. My grandmother. My future. Everything I worked for. Everything I was. She stepped closer. How do I live with that? How do I accept that? I do not know. Dominic's honesty was startling. I have been asking myself that same question for 400 years. That is not an answer. It is the only answer I have. He met her eyes. You think I do not carry the weight of every person I have transformed? Every human who lost their mortality because of me? I remember all of them. Their faces. Their names. The moment they realized what they had become. Then why do it? Because the alternative is watching them die. And I am too selfish to allow that. Dominic's voice dropped. You jumped in front of a bullet for a stranger and his child. You gave $400 to a homeless man after 5 days of being a vampire. You kept control when fresh blood was inches from your face. That is not humanity. That is humanity transcendent. Pretty words do not change reality. No, they do not. Dominic stepped closer. But reality is this. You are alive. Changed, yes. Grieving, absolutely. But alive. And you have a choice now. Spend eternity mourning what you lost, or find purpose in what you have become. What purpose? Claire demanded. What could possibly justify this? Work for me. Use your medical training to help vampires who are injured, who are sick, who need care that human hospitals cannot provide. You want me to be your doctor? I want you to save lives, the way you tried to save mine. Dominic's silver eyes held hers. Vampires can be hurt, can suffer, can die if injuries are severe enough. We have no one with legitimate medical training. You could change that. Claire wanted to refuse, wanted to walk away from him and this life and everything it represented. But where would she go? Back to Ruth with more lies? Back to a hospital where the smell of blood would drive her insane? Back to an apartment where she would sit alone and watch the decades pass? How much? She asked bitterly. $15,000 a month. Plus housing if you want it. Full access to the estate. Whatever medical supplies you need. It was more than she made as a nurse. More than she would ever make in the human world. I hate you right now. The words came out quiet. True. I know. But I will do it. Because you are right. I need purpose. And this, she gestured helplessly. This is all I have left. Dominic nodded once. Then welcome to the clan, Medic Westfield. Claire looked back at Ruth's house. The porch light still on. Probably would stay on all night now. Ruth worrying. Watching. Waiting for her granddaughter to come home. A grandmother who would never know the truth. Who would grow old while Claire remained 27 forever. I want to visit her, Claire said. Once a month. No matter what. Of course. And when she dies. Claire's voice cracked. When that day comes, I want to be there. You will be. They stood in silence. The October night settling around them. Cold air that Claire could no longer feel. Stars she could see with perfect clarity. A world that looked the same, but meant something completely different now. Her human life had ended the night she took that bullet. This was what came after. And somehow, she would have to learn to live with it. Chapter 6. Betrayal's Price. 2 weeks had passed since Claire accepted Dominic's offer. 2 weeks of learning to exist as something between the human she had been and the vampire she was becoming. 2 weeks of carefully maintained lies and barely controlled hunger. She was cataloging medical supplies in the estate's basement when Margot appeared in the doorway, moving with that preternatural silence all older vampires possessed. "We have a visitor." Margot's voice was tight. "Julian Cross sent a messenger. He wants to meet with Dominic, tonight." Claire looked up from the inventory list. Julian Cross, the rival faction leader? The same. Margot's jaw was set. "He claims it is urgent, a matter of mutual survival. Is it a trap?" "Probably." Margot crossed her arms. "But Dominic will go anyway. He cannot afford to ignore a request for parley, especially from Cross." They found Dominic in his study, the messenger already departed. He stood by the window, staring out at the darkened grounds. "What did he say?" Margot asked without preamble. "That the attack on me 2 weeks ago was not his doing. That we have a common enemy." Dominic's reflection was absent from the glass. Just the night beyond, empty where he should be. He wants to meet. Neutral ground. The old Paramount Theater. "You cannot seriously be considering this." "I am not just considering it. I am going." Dominic turned. His silver eyes found Claire. "And I want you there." "Me?" Claire's voice cracked slightly. "Why? Because you have instincts I trust. You saw danger before I did that night. I need those instincts now." Philippe materialized from the shadows. He had barely spoken to Claire since the transformation. Now his expression was carefully neutral. "My lord, taking the human..." He caught himself. "Taking Claire into a potential trap is unwise." Noted. Dominic's tone allowed no argument. "Margot, Claire, Philippe. We leave in an hour. Prepare accordingly." The Paramount Theater had been abandoned for 30 years. Its marquee hung crooked, letters missing, windows boarded over, the kind of place humans avoided after dark without knowing exactly why. Perfect neutral ground. Julian Cross waited in the main auditorium, tall blonde hair catching the dim light, that scar on his chin visible even from across the room. 3 of his people flanked him, but they stayed back. Non-threatening. For now. "Dominic," Julian's voice echoed in the empty space. "Thank you for coming. You said it was urgent." Dominic did not move from the entrance. "Speak. The attack on you 2 weeks ago. The one with silver bullets and human shooters." Julian's blue eyes were serious. "That was not my doing. Why should I believe you? Because I gain nothing from your death. Our territorial disputes are political, not personal. Killing you would only create chaos. Chaos benefits no one." Julian stepped forward slowly. "But there are those who would benefit from that chaos. Vampire hunters. They have been quiet for decades, but they are organizing again." Claire watched the exchange from beside Margot. Her enhanced hearing picked up heartbeats. 4 of Julian's people. All vampire. No heartbeats at all. But there was something else. A 5th presence, hidden in the upper balcony. "There is someone else here," she whispered to Margot. Margot's head tilted fractionally. "Where?" "Balcony. Stage left. They are trying very hard to be silent." Margot's hand went to the weapon concealed beneath her coat. But before she could act, Julian continued. "My sources tell me the hunters have an inside contact. Someone in your organization feeding them information. Locations, schedules, vulnerabilities." He paused. "That is why they knew where you would be that night. Someone told them." Dominic's expression remained unchanged, but Claire saw his hands tighten. "You are saying I have a traitor in my house. I am saying we both do. The hunters are playing us against each other while they gather strength." Julian produced a folder. "These are communications my people intercepted. Code names, meeting locations, transaction records. Someone close to you has been very busy." Philippe moved then. So fast Claire almost missed it. He was across the room, folder in hand, scanning the contents before Dominic could stop him. His face went white, then red, then carefully, terribly blank. "These are fabrications." Felipe's voice was too controlled. "Cross is trying to divide us." "Am I?" Julian's smile did not reach his eyes. "Then explain the dates, the locations, the amounts." Margot took the folder from Philippe. Her expression darkened with each page. 3 vampires from our clan had unauthorized contact with known intermediaries. Over the past 6 months. She looked at Dominic. The communications reference a handler. Codename Revenant. Claire's medical training kicked in. She watched Philippe's body language. The micro-expressions. The way his pulse, what little vampires had, jumped at his throat. "It is him," she said quietly. "Philippe. He is the traitor." Everyone turned to stare at her. Philippe laughed. Cold and bitter. "The human speaks. How precious. You have been a vampire for 2 weeks and you think you understand." "Your left hand," Claire interrupted. "You keep touching your left ring finger. There is no ring there now, but there was. Recently. You have been rotating it unconsciously since we arrived. A nervous tell." She stepped forward. "Vampires do not get nervous. Not ancient ones. Not unless they are hiding something." Felipe's hand froze. Dominic moved with that terrible speed Claire was still getting used to. One moment standing beside her. The next, Philippe was pinned against the wall, Dominic's hand around his throat. "Explain." One word. Absolute command. Philippe struggled. Not physically. He could not overpower Dominic. But the words seemed to choke him. "Isabel." He finally gasped. "You let her die. Your mate." Margot breathed. 15 years ago. The hunters ambushed her, killed her. "And you?" Philippe's eyes blazed with rage. "You knew. You had intelligence that they were targeting bloodlines. You could have warned us, could have protected her. But you chose not to act, to preserve the peace, to maintain your precious accord." Dominic's expression cracked. "Just for a moment. Philippe, I found the report 6 months ago, hidden in your archives. You knew they were coming for secondary bloodlines. You knew, and you did nothing." Philippe's voice broke. "She died alone and screaming because you valued political stability over her life. There were thousands at stake. If I had acted, we would have had open war. And I would have had my wife." The word hung in the air. Wife. Vampires rarely married. Mating bonds were sacred, eternal. To lose one was to lose half your soul. Claire felt something twist in her chest. Sympathy for this man who had betrayed them, who had hated her from the moment she arrived. "So you allied with the hunters." Dominic's voice was quiet now, sad. "The very people who killed her. I allied with revenge. They promised me you, your death, your son's fear, everything you loved destroyed." Philippe met his eyes. "I used an intermediary, another vampire, low level. He is dead now, killed in the attack on you. That was not planned." "And Claire?" Margot asked. "Did you know she would take that bullet? No one was supposed to be saved. You were supposed to die and your son was supposed to watch. That was my payment. That was my justice." Dominic's hand tightened. "You broke our laws. Endangered our entire community. For vengeance. For love," Philippe corrected. "You would not understand. You have not loved anyone truly in 4 centuries. Not since you became king and learned that kings do not have the luxury of love." Before anyone could respond, the hidden figure in the balcony moved. Claire saw it first. The glint of silver. The trajectory toward Evander, who had been standing silent by the door. Above, the shooter scrambled into the dark, boots clattering along the balcony rail. "Evander, down!" She was running before thought caught up. Vampire speed, still clumsy but fueled by pure instinct. The silver dagger flew. Claire caught it mid-air. Philippe tore free of Dominic's grip and lunged. Not for Evander, but for Claire, trying to wrench the blade toward its original mark. The blessed metal seared her palm, but she did not drop it. Could not drop it. Philippe had somehow broken free from Dominic's grip. Had thrown the weapon. His final revenge. "You took everything from me. He snarled at Dominic. "Let me take something from you." Margot fired. Not a regular gun. Something modified. The bolt went through Philippe's heart. He dropped to his knees. Julian and his people had not moved. Observing, neutral, witnessing. Dominic walked slowly to Philippe, pulled a wooden stake from his coat, knelt before his old friend, his old guard, his betrayer. "I am sorry," Dominic said quietly, "for Isabel, for not protecting her, for choosing the many over the one." He raised the stake. "But you endangered my son. That I cannot forgive." The stake went through Philippe's heart with terrible finality. Philippe's last breath was a sigh. Then nothing. Just ash and memory. Claire dropped the dagger. Her palm was black, smoking. Margot was beside her immediately, wrapping the wound. Evander stood frozen by the door. 8 years old in appearance. 67 years in truth. Old enough to understand what had just happened. Young enough to be terrified by it. Claire crossed to him, pulled him into a hug, let him shake against her. "You saved me again," he whispered into her shoulder. "Why do you keep saving me?" "Because that is what family does." The words came without thought, but they were true. Somehow, in 2 weeks, this strange child had become hers to protect. Julian cleared his throat. "Well, that was more exciting than anticipated." He nodded to Dominic. "The information I provided. My people will share more as we gather it. Consider the truce official." "Why help us?" Dominic asked. "Because hunters do not discriminate. If they kill you, they will come for me next. Better to eliminate the threat together." Julian glanced at Claire. "Besides, anyone who can spot a traitor after 2 weeks as a vampire is worth keeping alive." "You have chosen your allies well, Dominic." They left the theater. Philippe's ashes scattered on the rotting carpet. In the car, no one spoke for a long time. Finally, Evander's small voice broke the silence. "Will there be more traitors?" "Probably," Dominic answered honestly. "Betrayal is part of our world. Then how do you know who to trust?" Dominic glanced in the rearview mirror. His silver eyes met Claire's. "You trust those who act without thinking when danger comes, who put themselves between harm and innocence, who prove through deeds, not words." He paused. "Your friend Claire has done that twice now." Claire looked at her bandaged hand. The pain was already fading. Vampire healing. 2 weeks ago she had been human. A nurse. A granddaughter. Someone with a normal life. Now she was a vampire. A doctor to immortals. Someone who caught silver daggers and spotted traitors, and somehow, impossibly, she was becoming family to a vampire king and his son. The world had become brutal, dangerous, filled with betrayal and blood and darkness. But it was also filled with purpose, with people worth protecting, with a strange found family that had formed in the ruins of her old life. Claire watched the city lights blur past and wondered what would come next. Whatever it was, she would face it. That was what family did. Chapter 7. Letting go. 3 weeks had passed since Claire's transformation. 3 weeks of learning to exist between 2 worlds that could never truly meet. She stood in her small apartment for what she knew would be the last time. Boxes lined the walls. Medical textbooks, nursing uniforms, photos of Ruth and her parents. A life packed away in cardboard and tape. Margot appeared in the doorway without knocking. She never knocked anymore. Vampires did not need to. "The movers will arrive at midnight." Margot's voice was gentle. "We have arranged storage for anything you wish to keep." Claire ran her fingers over a framed photo. Her graduation from nursing school. Ruth beside her, beaming with pride. That had been 4 years ago. A lifetime ago. "I cannot keep doing this." The words came out quiet, broken. The lies, the pretending. "Every time I see Ruth, I have to invent new excuses for why I look the same, why I am always cold, why I cannot eat her cooking. I know. Do you?" Claire turned. "Do you really know what it is to lose everything? To watch the person who raised you grow old while you stay frozen?" Margot was silent for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice carried the weight of centuries. I was turned in 1825. I was 32 years old, married, 2 children. James was 5. Elizabeth was 3. She moved to the window, staring out at nothing. I did not choose to become vampire. I was attacked, left for dead. Another vampire found me and completed the transformation without asking. Claire felt her anger cool slightly. What happened to them? Your children? I had to leave, immediately. I was dangerous, uncontrolled. The hunger was overwhelming. Margot's hands gripped the windowsill. Claire heard the wood creak. I watched them from a distance. For decades. Watched James grow into a man. Get married. Have children of his own. Watched Elizabeth become a teacher. Fall in love. Grow old. Did they ever know? No. I died as far as they were concerned. Their mother died in 1825 and never came back. Margot turned. Her green eyes were bright with unshed tears. Blood tears. James died in 1889. He was 69 years old. Elizabeth lived until 1903. She was 81. I attended both their funerals from a distance. Watched my grandchildren mourn people they never really knew. Claire's throat tightened. How do you bear it? You learn. You adapt. You find new purpose. Margot crossed the room. Claire, you will lose Ruth eventually. That is inevitable now. The question is how you lose her. Do you disappear mysteriously? Do you maintain a distant relationship built on lies? Or do you create an exit that gives her peace? What did you do? I wrote letters. Sent them from different cities. Told my husband I had found work abroad. That I was happy. That I would visit when I could. Margot's voice cracked. I never did. But he believed I was alive and well. That gave him comfort. Allowed him to remarry. To move forward. Claire sank onto her couch. The cushions still smelled like her old life. Coffee and laundry detergent and normalcy. I need to see her one more time. I know. Ruth's house looked exactly the same as it always had. White siding, blue shutters. The garden boxes filled with late-season mums that bloomed stubbornly against the October cold. Claire knocked. Heard Ruth's footsteps. Slow. Careful. The gait of someone whose bones ached. Claire! Ruth's face lit up. Then concern shadowed it. You should have called. I would have made dinner. I cannot stay long. Claire hugged her grandmother. Felt how fragile she had become. How easily she could break. I have news. Inside, Ruth made tea. Neither of them would drink. Claire sat at the familiar kitchen table and delivered the carefully rehearsed lie. I got a job offer. International medical research. A partnership between universities in Europe. The words tasted like ash. It is incredible. Groundbreaking work. But I would be traveling constantly. London, Paris, Geneva. My contact here will be limited. Ruth's hand stilled on her teacup. How limited? Phone calls when I can. Maybe video chats. Visits once or twice a year if I'm lucky. The silence stretched. Ruth was not crying. That somehow made it worse. Is this what you want? Ruth finally asked. Truly. Claire wanted to scream that no. This was not what she wanted. She wanted to stay human, to grow old beside her grandmother, to have a normal life filled with normal things. But that life had died 3 weeks ago in a street outside the hospital. Yes, the lie came easier now. This is what I want. Ruth studied her face with those sharp eyes that had always seen too much. You have been different since the attack. Distant, like you are already gone. Grandma, I am not angry. Ruth reached across the table. Her warm hand covered Claire's cold one. I am proud. Your parents would be proud. You have always been destined for great things. Claire felt blood tears threatening, blinked them back. I love you. She managed. No matter where I am, no matter what. I love you. I know, sweetheart. Ruth squeezed her hand. I have always known. They talked for another hour. About nothing and everything. Ruth showed her photos from a neighbor's wedding. Told her about the book club drama. Normal things. Human things. When Claire finally stood to leave, Ruth walked her to the door. Will you call me when you arrive in Europe? Of course. And you will be safe? I promise. Ruth hugged her tight. You were the best thing that ever happened to me. After your parents died, I thought my life was over, but raising you gave me purpose, gave me joy. Whatever you do, wherever you go, remember that you are loved. Claire held her grandmother, memorized the feel of her, the smell of her lavender soap, the sound of her heartbeat. Thump, 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 thump. A rhythm that would not last forever. Thank you, she whispered. For everything. For raising me. For loving me. For being my family. Always. Ruth pulled back, cupped Claire's face in her hands. Now go. Do great things. Make me proud. Claire left. Did not look back. If she looked back, she would never leave. Dominic was waiting by her car. Silent support. He had been there every night this week, never pushing, just present. How are you? He asked as she climbed into the passenger seat. I just lied to the woman who raised me. Told her I was leaving the country for a job that does not exist. Claire's voice broke. She said she was proud of me. Dominic started the car. Drove in silence for several minutes. My mother died in 1627, he said quietly. I was already vampire. Had been for 15 years. I attended her funeral disguised as a distant cousin. She never knew what I had become. Never knew I had stayed close. Watching. Protecting from the shadows. Did you regret it? Not telling her? Every day. Dominic's hands tightened on the steering wheel. But I would make the same choice again. Some truths are too heavy, too dangerous. Better to let them believe a comfortable lie than burden them with a terrible truth. They drove back to the estate. The sun would rise in a few hours. Claire would spend another day learning to be a vampire, learning to live with loss. Dominic walked her to her room, hesitated at the door. You do not have to do this alone, he said. The grief, the guilt, the weight of it all. We carry it together. Why? Claire turned to face him. Really face him. Why do you care? You paid your debt when you transformed me. You owe me nothing, because I see myself in you. Before I became king, before 4 centuries taught me to wall off my heart, his silver eyes held hers. You jumped in front of a bullet for strangers. After 3 weeks as a vampire, you still give money to the homeless. You cry blood tears for a grandmother you have to leave behind. That is not humanity you lost. That is humanity you kept. Pretty words do not change reality. No. But reality is this. He stepped closer. You have a choice now. Spend eternity mourning what you lost, or build something new with what you have. And what do I have? Purpose. Position. A family if you want it. He paused. And possibly more. The air between them changed. Charged with something Claire had been trying to ignore for weeks. Dominic, I am attracted to you. He said it simply. Honestly. Not because you are beautiful, though you are. Not because you saved my life, though you did. But because in 3 weeks, you have shown more genuine humanity than I have seen in 4 centuries. Claire's breath caught. She did not need to breathe, but the habit remained. I do not know how to do this, she admitted. Any of this. Being a vampire, leaving my old life, and I definitely do not know how to have feelings for someone who is 400 years old. Then we figure it out together. Dominic's hand touched her face. Gentle. Careful. Or we do not. The choice is entirely yours. I will not pressure you. Will not use our connection to influence you. You have had enough choices stolen. This one is yours alone. Claire looked at him. At this ancient being who had saved her life by destroying it. Who had given her purpose when everything else fell apart. Who watched her with eyes that had seen empires rise and fall but still held something that looked almost vulnerable. She kissed him. It was not dramatic. Not desperate. Just a soft press of lips. Cold against cold. A question and an answer. When they pulled apart, Dominic's expression was carefully neutral. Guarded. What does this mean? He asked. I do not know yet. Claire was honest. But I know I do not want to face eternity alone. And I know that when I am with you, the grief is bearable. That counts for something. It counts for everything. They stood in the hallway. Neither moving, neither speaking. Just existing in a moment that felt both impossibly important and perfectly simple. Finally, Claire stepped back. I need to sleep, process, figure out who I am now. Of course. Dominic moved toward the stairs, stopped. Claire, for what it is worth, I think you are exactly who you always were. Circumstances changed. You did not. He left before she could respond. Claire entered her room, closed the door, leaned against it. Her phone buzzed. A text from Ruth. I am proud of you, sweetheart. Go change the world. Claire slid down the door, sat on the floor, let the blood tears come. She had lost her human life, her job, her grandmother, in every way that mattered. But she had gained something too. Purpose. Family. A strange, complicated connection with a vampire king who looked at her like she was something worth keeping. It was not the life she chose, but it was the life she had. And maybe, just maybe, she could learn to live with that. Tomorrow she would accept Dominic's offer officially, would become the clan's doctor, would start building something new from the ashes of what she lost. Tonight, she would mourn. For Ruth, for her parents, for the human girl who had walked into that street 3 weeks ago and never walked out. Tomorrow would come soon enough. Chapter 8. Family Eternal. 3 months had passed since the night Claire Westfield died on a city street, and something else took her place. The medical office she had built occupied the east wing of Dominic's estate. Not a clinic. Not a hospital. Something in between. Shelves lined with supplies that no human doctor would recognize. Silver extraction tools. Blessed wound antiseptic. Blood substitutes for vampires too young to control their feeding. And patience. So many patients. Claire wrapped gauze around a vampire's forearm, where silver shrapnel had embedded during a territorial dispute. The wound was healing slowly, the way silver wounds did. Keep it dry for 3 nights. She secured the bandage. Come back if the burning sensation does not fade. The vampire nodded and left. Next, a young woman sat on the examination table, 19 years old when she was turned. That had been 6 days ago. She shook uncontrollably, eyes wild with hunger. I cannot do this. Her voice cracked. I cannot be this thing. Claire sat beside her, remembered sitting in the same position 3 months ago. Terrified. Broken. Convinced her life was over. What is your name? Sophia. Sophia, look at me. Claire waited until the girl's red-rimmed eyes met hers. 3 months ago, I was exactly where you are. Newly transformed. Terrified. Certain I would never be okay again. But you are okay. Sophia's voice was small, desperate. Some days. Other days I mourn what I lost. But I am here. I am functioning. I am helping people. Claire squeezed her hand gently. You will get through this. I promise. How? 1 hour at a time. 1 feeding. 1 moment of control. Until those moments become days. Then weeks. Then a life. Claire stood. And you will not do it alone. I will teach you. The way someone taught me. Margot appeared in the doorway. The council has arrived. Claire's stomach dropped. 3 months. Exactly 90 days since her transformation. The mandatory waiting period before the Vampire Council could formally judge whether Dominic's decision to turn her had been justified. She found Dominic in the main hall. He wore formal attire. Black suit. No tie. His white hair was pulled back, exposing the sharp lines of his face. Are you ready? He asked quietly. No? Good. Fear keeps you sharp. He offered his arm. Shall we face judgment together? The council chamber had been prepared in the estate's grand ballroom. 5 ancient vampires sat behind a curved table. They looked human until you met their eyes. Then you saw the centuries, the weight of immortal existence. The eldest spoke first, a woman with silver hair and eyes like ice. Claire Westfield. You were transformed without consent, against the Accord of 1847, against our most sacred laws. Claire stood tall. I was, yet you stand here, alive, vampire. Do you dispute the transformation? No. Claire's voice was steady. I was dying. Dominic Greystone saved my life. I am grateful for that. Gratitude does not erase illegality. A male council member leaned forward. The law exists for a reason. to prevent the creation of vampires who did not choose this existence, who cannot adapt, who become dangers to our secrecy. I understand. Claire met his gaze. But I chose to stay. After waking, after learning what I had become, I could have walked away, demanded death, refused to adapt. I did none of those things, because you had no choice. I had every choice. Claire stepped forward. I chose to learn control. I chose to accept Dominic's offer. I chose to use my medical training to help this community. She gestured to the council. In 3 months, I have treated 47 vampires, removed silver from wounds that would have taken months to heal, counseled newly transformed vampires through their transition, prevented 3 potential exposure incidents by identifying blood madness early. The council members exchanged glances. You are asking us to approve an illegal transformation because you have made yourself useful? The ice-eyed woman's tone was sharp. No. Claire's voice was firm. I am asking you to judge me on who I am now, not how I got here. I did not ask to be vampire. But I am vampire, and I am making that mean something. Silence fell over the chamber. Finally, Dominic spoke. Claire Westfield saved my life and my son's life at cost of her own. She took a silver bullet meant for me. The blood debt was absolute. I honored that debt the only way I could, by breaking our laws, by keeping her alive. Dominic's silver eyes blazed. And if you rule that was wrong, if you demand her death to satisfy your sense of order, you will have to go through me first. The threat hung in the air. A vampire king does not make threats lightly. The council members deliberated in whispers too quiet for Claire to hear. Minutes stretched into eternity. Finally, the silver-haired woman stood. Claire Westfield, we find that while your transformation violated the letter of the law, it upheld the spirit. You were dying in an act of heroic sacrifice. The blood debt was legitimate. Your adaptation has been exemplary. Your contributions to this community are undeniable. Claire's breath caught. Therefore, by unanimous vote, we approve your transformation retroactively. You are recognized as a full member of the Greystone clan, with all rights and protections that entails. The relief was so intense Claire's knees went weak. Dominic's hand found her elbow, steadying her. Thank you. She managed. The council departed. The formality dissolved. Claire collapsed into a chair. It is over, she whispered. It is finally over. Not over. Dominic knelt beside her. Just beginning. That evening, Claire found a letter waiting in her room. Handwritten. Ruth's careful script. My dearest Claire, I know you are not really in Europe. I am old, not stupid. Something happened to you that night you disappeared. Something you cannot tell me about. That is okay. I see how you look at me now. Like you are memorizing me. Like you are already saying goodbye. I understand. Sometimes people have to leave. Sometimes they cannot explain why. I want you to know that I am proud of you. Whatever path you have chosen, whatever life you are living now, I trust that you are doing what you need to do. You have always been stronger than you believed. Do not worry about me. I have had a good life. I raised a remarkable granddaughter. That is enough. Be happy, sweetheart. Wherever you are, whatever you are doing, choose joy when you can. All my love, Ruth. Claire read it 3 times, then carefully folded it and placed it in a wooden box on her dresser, beside Evander's pressed flowers, beside the only photo she had kept from her old life. Ruth knew. Maybe not the specifics, but she knew, and she had given Claire permission to let go. The tears came then, blood-tinged and bitter, but also healing. She was still crying when Dominic knocked. May I come in? She nodded. He sat beside her on the bed. Did not ask what was wrong, just waited. Ruth knows I am not coming back. Claire showed him the letter. She is letting me go. Dominic read slowly. When he finished, his expression was soft. She loves you very much. I know. And you love her. I do. Claire wiped her eyes. But she is right. I have to choose joy. I have to build something new. I cannot spend eternity mourning what I lost. No. Dominic's hand covered hers. You cannot. They sat in comfortable silence. Then Dominic stood, offering his hand. Come. Someone wants to see you. Evander waited on the terrace. The October night had given way to November cold. Snow would come soon. But tonight, the stars were visible. Thousands of them, sharp and clear in the darkness. "Claire!" Evander ran to her. She caught him in a hug. He was so small, would be small forever. But he felt like family, like home. "What are you doing out here?" she asked. "Waiting for you." He signed as he spoke, hands moving gracefully. "Father said the council approved you, that you are staying." "I am staying." "Forever?" Claire looked at Dominic, at this man who had destroyed her life to save it, who had given her purpose when everything else fell apart, who looked at her now like she was something precious. "Yes," she said firmly. "Forever." "Good." Evander grinned. "Because you are my family now, and family does not leave." Dominic moved to stand beside them. His hand found Claire's, cold fingers lacing through cold fingers. Two immortals and a child who would never grow up, standing together under stars that would outlast them all. "The future will not be easy," Dominic said quietly. "There will be more conflicts, more danger. The hunters are still out there. Julian Cross's truce is temporary. Ruth will age and die. Everything you knew as human will fade into memory." "I know." Claire squeezed his hand. "But I will face it. We will face it. Together," Evander added. "Together." Dominic agreed. Claire looked out over the estate, over the city lights in the distance, over a world that looked the same but meant something completely different now. 3 months ago, she had been Claire Westfield, 27 years old. Nurse, granddaughter, human. Now she was something else. Something between, something new. Claire Westfield, doctor, mentor, vampire, family. Her human life had ended the night she took that bullet. But this life, this strange, complicated, dangerous life, had purpose, had meaning, had people worth protecting. Dominic's hand tightened around hers. Evander leaned against her side. The stars wheeled overhead in their eternal dance. And Claire Westfield, newly immortal, smiled. This was her family now. And family was forever.